Hey guys, it's Hannah, and today I'm going to film my monthly movie rundown for the month of April. I actually did really well this month. I'm very proud of myself. Pat on my back. I watched, I think, over 30 movies. So I beat my goal. And I do have some movies that I forgot to mention last month that after I filmed and edited and uploaded the video, I realized, wow, why did I forget those? And then every single time it was because I was drinking when I watched those movies. So alcohol inhibits memory. So I'm gonna just mention those very quickly, not give any thoughts on that, just right out there for you. I watched Gravity, yes, a movie I never thought I would ever watch because I fear space, but I watched it. Then I watched Before We Go, and The Nanny Diaries, and Wrecker. Wrecker was horrible. That's a Netflix one. Don't watch it. Now into this month's favorite. Favorites with plural S. I'm going to mention my absolute top favorites at the very beginning. And there's this one, it's not a Netflix movie. I don't know where you can find it. I ordered it on Amazon for like $2. It used to be on Netflix, I heard. And it is called Elvis and Anabelle. The description for this movie is going to sound terrible, but it's one of those that it feels like nostalgia, it smells like nostalgia to me. It's one of those movies that has a special place in my heart, not because it's extraordinarily well written. I'm gonna give you a summary instead of jabbering. It's based in a small town in Texas. I believe it's in Cameron, which is towards South Padre. If you're from here, you know. So one of our protagonists, Elvis, he is the son of a mortician, and his father became mentally disabled due to things I will not say. And so now he's kind of taken over that position as the mortician, but he's not licensed. I don't even think he's old enough to technically be, but they kind of have this front going just because that's their livelihood. That's what they do in the town. And he's kind of that outcast. When they were in school, he was like, you know, the people that no one ever talks to because he's creepy because, you know, like, your father's a mortician, you know what I mean? And then there's Annabelle. She's well off. Her mother was in pageants her whole life. She was kind of raised to be a pageant girl. I mean, I've done pageants when I was little. I don't have much memory of them, but I remember lots of hairspray. I didn't like it. But anyway, she's competing in the Miss Texas Rose pageant, and while on stage, she dies of a heart attack that is due to an eating disorder. And so her body gets taken to the only mortician that they have in the town. And when Elvis is about to start embalming her, he has this thing, and it sounds creepy, and it kind of is, where he takes pictures after he's like done his work and stuff, because that is kind of like an art form, you know what I mean? He kind of gets caught up in this weird moment where he kisses her and he accidentally takes a picture at the same time because it was one of those remote things, and he's startled by it, and then she wakes up. And so he's in a panic. He's going upstairs instructing his father of what to say when the cops get there, and he's calling an ambulance, and she's wanting to find answers and to see if she said anything when she woke up. So she keeps going back to her house thinking that it was his father that was about to embalm her, and she wants to talk to him. His father is such a sweetheart, and they end up kind of hitting it off that way. And she just keeps coming back because she feels like there are answers there, and she ends up realizing that her parents still just want her to, you know, go on Oprah, go on do this. Like, you won Miss Texas Rose and you had this, look at the publicity. And she wants to run from that, and so she goes there and escapes, and they all get to know each other. And I don't know, it's really beautiful. It sounds stupid. There's also a theme of suicide throughout the movie, and it's just really beautifully constructed. There's not a lot of dialogue in it. A lot of it is just these beautiful shots, but there is some really awesome dialogue in there. It's a great movie. I highly recommend it. If you are curious enough, spend the $2, order it on Amazon. That's where I got it. You might be able to find it at a half price or something like that. The next movie I really liked was called Goodbye World. It's on Netflix, and it's about this group of people that have kind of like gathered back together for like a little reunion thing. They knew each other in like high school, college, that kind of thing. And what happens when they all get there to this one couple's house, and they are very hippy-dippy kind of, and like self-sustaining, have their own medicine, grow their own weed, grow their own fruits and vegetables, everything like that. And it takes them a little while to realize that the grid goes down. And so that's the backdrop of the story, though it's not the center of it. I went into it thinking it's going to be some like weird apocalyptic like thing. It was actually surprisingly good. It's about the relationships with the people, and it's about human nature. The next movie I want to briefly mention is Mystic River. It is about a murder that brings back these 3 childhood friends together. It's more of like a murder mystery drama. That's what I would describe it as. I also really liked The Forest. This is one I rented from Redbox. It's the one with Natalie Dormer in it. It was, I mean, don't go into it with super high expectations, but for like a good old horror movie, it was pretty good. I really did like it. Now I'm gonna jump through some more. Primal Fear, I watched. That is, again, a murder mystery. I didn't really like that one though. Jeepers Creepers is like my all-time favorite horror movie. I fucking love that movie. I definitely talked about it in my top 10 favorite movies, which is a video that I want to refilm and give more thought to and expand my top number, you know what I mean? But it's my all-time favorite horror movie, and it's like the scariest monster I could imagine. Is Jeepers Creepers. Every 23 years for 23 days, he feeds. And so he comes out in the spring as this monster that they call Jeepers Creepers. And he drives this, it sounds so stupid, but he drives this like beat up truck. And he goes around scaring people, and in their fear, if he smells something that he likes of them, that he needs, like eyes or lungs or a head or an arm or whatever, that's how he can tell, oh, this is what I want, because he can smell their fear. And so it's one of those things that like you can't control your fear, and they smell it like bees and wasps and flying things that bite you. And so you can't control that. And then that's almost like telling him, hey, look, I'm here. You want me, or you want this from me. I also watched Mad Max. I thought it was visually so beautiful. I get dizzy really easily with movies, and so I was doing a puzzle while watching it, but my brother was watching it with me, and so he'd be like, oh, that was so cool. I'm like, awesome, rewind it for me, just so I wouldn't get dizzy, but I really did like it. I also rewatched E.T., which is a cult classic movie that I think everyone and their mother should watch. I watched Dreamcatcher. Do not watch it. It's disgusting. It's about alien worms that get shit out of people and attack. It's gross. Don't watch it. I had a hard time with it. I watched The Gift, which is about a woman with psychic abilities. It is a murder mystery, but more of like a less typical murder mystery, more of like a mellow murder mystery, if that makes sense. Out of Sight, I didn't like that one. That was with Julia Roberts and George Clooney. Or no, wait, not Julia Roberts. Jennifer Lopez. I didn't like that one. The Gallows horror movie, not good. Very shaky camera, like, meh, but Hush. This one is on Netflix, and I thought this was really interesting. It is about a woman who is deaf who lives out in kind of like the woods of Colorado, if I remember correctly, and she does have a neighbor. It's just not one of those like this how we are in the city. And so there's this man wearing a mask that comes up, and he wants in her house or to kill her. I don't really all the way know his motivations other than, you know, psycho killer wants to kill, whatever. And it's kind of like this game of cat and mouse, but she doesn't hear where he is and he can hear her, obviously. And it's like her trying to escape and do this, that, and the other to get help, basically, but then he cuts the Wi-Fi. But she has a phone, and I think she has service because she was texting with someone before in the movie. She went deaf when she was a kid, and it would make me feel like she would have some kind of ability to speak, even if it wasn't cohesive words and sentences. She could still have called for help anyway. It was still a really interesting movie, had lots of suspense because you're like, no, don't do it, no, don't do it the whole time. I liked it. I rented Ratcher from Redbox. The end genuinely creeped me the fuck out. It's about a man that stalks this girl who recently moved to New York and is living alone in an apartment, and he like kills off people that are close to her because he doesn't want her to be close to anyone. And then the end's creepy, okay? But the majority of the movie is really not that creepy. The Hallow is about creatures in the woods. It is on Netflix. It's actually worth a watch. I had -10 in the expectation range. I was just on a horror movie spree. Yeah, but it's about monsters in the woods. And I think it's in Ireland, but it's worth a watch. Now this one is tied with Dreamcatcher for like my least favorite movie I might have ever seen ever. It's horrible. It's called Robert. I rented it from Redbox because I thought it was The Boy, which is the one about the puppet. And then it wasn't, and it was poorly acted and horrible, and just do not rent that. I made the mistake. I rewatched V for Vendetta. I haven't watched the movie in such a long time, and it made me realize that everything that pretty much V stood for, I stood for, and I'm like, yep, I'm on that level. Then I watched Beneath. I honestly don't remember what that one's about. I watched Elizabeth, which is about Queen Elizabeth, her life, her story, all that. It was interesting. The Other Woman. Oh, this one was kind of morbid. This one has Natalie Portman in it. It is about a woman who had an affair with a man, ended up getting pregnant. He left his wife. He already had a son. When they have the baby, her baby ends up dying, like very soon after she was born. I think it was like within the week. And she wants to like his kid, but he's just a terrible little child. It's hard to watch. It's a difficult one, but I thought it was still interesting. Erin Brockovich was a rewatch for me. Yeah, I watched it again. I think I watched it last month too. I like this movie a lot. It's my favorite. The Mummy, because it's on Netflix and I watched it a lot, and the fucking little beetle thingies creeped me out as a child. Cruel Intentions, because I remember watching that when I was a lot younger and I was very confused and I wanted to rewatch it. Then I watched Vanity Fair. I didn't really like that. The Rites of Spring, that's like a horror movie again that wasn't really that good. It's about a monster. yeah, that's pretty much it, that chases people. And then there's someone who brings the people to the monster to feed it, you know, typical. Breaking at the Edge, I don't remember what that one's about either. Not Safe for Work. I watched this because I thought that the title caught my eye. I'm like, okay, what could this movie actually be about? I was like genuinely curious. And it has Max Minghella in it. He's the same guy from Elvis and Anabelle. And it's about a man who goes into this office place to get certain files because whatever. And everyone was supposed to have been gone, but he was staying late, and so was another person. And then there's this guy in there that's like, I need the files. They saw me here, must kill them. And so like this cat and mouse thing of them like running and chasing. But it was actually good. They did suspense really well with that movie, and they were smart, which I so greatly appreciated. I watched Aeon Flux, A-E-O-N Flux. It was very Matrix, but without the depth of Matrix. So, I watched Estranged. Now this movie is fucked up. Like really fucked up. If rape is a trigger for you, do not watch this movie. It's about this girl who got in a motorcycle accident and she lost a lot of her long-term memory, but her short-term memory was fine. And so her and her boyfriend go to live with her family. And her family is really, really weird and creepy, and you get all the bad vibes from them. It just gets worse and worse. God, they just start doing really fucked up stuff, but she's like bound to a wheelchair at this point in the movie. And then her boyfriend goes missing and they say that he just left, but she's like, no, there's no way he just left. And it's just, and then there's rape, and then it's just creepy, and that movie was genuinely disturbing. Not a horror movie, it was just like psychologically fucked up. Indigenous, which is another monster in the woods, but this time it was in Mexico, and it was kind of in the same vein of The Ruins, but The Ruins was much better. The Exorcism of Molly Hartley. If that sounds familiar to you, The Haunting of Molly Hartley was a movie back in like, I want to say 2006 or so, and it's not a good movie, but I remember really liking it when I was that young. This is the sequel to it, and it's horrible. It's so bad. Don't watch it. It's so bad. Out of the Dark. This one was actually pretty good. It's about these children in, I want to say Mexico, or maybe it was like Peru or something. I think it was South America now that I'm saying this. That were burned alive in a tent, and every year they come out to like seek revenge on the people that did it to them, and there's like this whole holiday type of thing around it. Celebrating is not the right word, but like recognizing what happened to the children. It's this big holiday within the culture. Little burnt children are real, and they want to kill people. And it sounds stupid, but the suspense of it is pretty good, and you don't really see them often, and that's why it's good. Yeah. The Eye Inside. This had Ryan Phillippe or however you say his name. And I really, really, really don't like him. I didn't like him in this either. He's just one of those that like, I mean, it's a mystery if you're into those. He like loses half his memory, and he's like remembering things and being told one thing and then the other, and then he's like time traveling. So it's interesting in that way, but you have to pay attention or you'll be very confused. The Lookalike, I thought it was gonna be that really dumb one with Lindsay Lohan in it. It's like one of those that are sometimes advertised at the top of Netflix, and so when you're logging in, you accidentally click it, and then I was just like, whatever, let's just keep on it. And it wasn't bad. It was about a stripper who was accidentally killed, and then they needed a replacement stripper. And it was a search for it. But it was surprisingly, like, it had funny parts. It was weird. I watched The Perfect Storm. It was a George Clooney, Mark Wahlberg, men at sea. They were fishermen, and there was a storm. I didn't like it. First Response was a movie about these paramedics. Is that the proper name? I believe so. They drive the hospital cars, ambulances. And they end up being held at gunpoint and being forced to help one of the criminals that was injured. It was actually pretty interesting. It was like a good suspense type of thing. Last movie I watched was called Freedom Land, and it had such awesome like sociological undertones, I think is the proper word I'm looking for. It's about a woman whose son was taken in a primarily black area of town, and she walks to the hospital, yes, walks, not runs, tells how she was hurt and that her son was taken. And what they do is they kind of like shut down that community. They don't allow people to leave. They barricade them off. That's the word I was looking for. And you really see what it does to the people there and like what the outside of the world does, and then the police force. And it's a really good movie if you want to look at things from a different perspective. Let's just say that. I don't want to spoil it because it's kind of a murder mystery type of feel. Now, quickly, the 2 TV shows that I have been watching the most. The X-Files, no big surprise there. Season 4 is by far my favorite. I'm on to season 5 now, which is, it feels so much different than the rest of everything has felt. It's kind of trying to bring it back to season 1 feel, I feel like. Feel. Another show that I was watching is NASA's Unexplained Files. And I find that it's a little bit more interesting than Ancient Aliens because there are people who really did work at NASA who are giving their opinion and like debunking things or saying we have no explanation for it. It could be this, it could be that, but we really don't know. And so I don't know, I feel like there's a little bit more credibility to it and it makes me feel less insane. So that is all I have. I'm sorry that this video was so crazy long, but I watched a lot of movies this month. I feel like this was an oddity, but I hope that you enjoyed this nonetheless. And if you have any recommendations for movies, please let me know down there in the comments. The Iceman is one on my list that someone recommended to me before. And I think there was a TV show that someone recommended. I have Xfinity, Hulu, and Netflix. So any of those three, if you have movies on there that you really like, tell me. So that is about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys later next time. Bye. So there's the Texas Miss Road. So it's a built. That's a new one.